like a drop of rain in an ocean, like a drop in the sea. But many, many nations still got to learn from we, how we aspire and we achieve. It's so hard to believe the unity that is so unique. It's fantastic, yes, so to speak. It's fantastic, yes, it is, the way how we live as one. In integration, all the nation is second to none. Here the Negroes, the white man, the Chinese, the Indian, we walk together in hand. In this wonderland of Calypso, in this wonderland of steel band. God bless our nation.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of the DPTT Speaks. Today we are going to talk to you about the arts. And you know, when I am frustrated, when I'm having a tough day, I sit at the piano and play with the piano. Now, there are some things that would continue to confuse the people of Trinidad and Tobago. They would want to understand, there's a sort of expectation that we all have that, you know what, as soon as we got to independence, as soon as we get there, Trinidad and Tobago's art and all our culture thing would have been enhanced because we're now free. We can now determine our own path and create our own way. But has that happened? Let's think of what has happened prior to independence. So, a lot of people who are looking at this today will not have known that Sparrow, the mighty Sparrow, actually did a whole recording in London with the London Philharmonic Orchestra. He did an entire Christmas album that today is played not only in the Caribbean, but also in Europe. See, a lot of people would not have known that Kitchener made tunes that were internationally known. They would not know of people of a group called the Sparks that became Wildfire. Very few of them would have heard the name Nadie Lafond or Carol Addison. So many wonderful, fully talented people came through Trinidad and Tobago over the years. And yet today, we are fighting to get international recognition in terms of the arts. We have a few artists, Marshall Montano, Bunji Garlin, and a few others who have made it to some international programs. And they've gotten some awards internationally. But there's so much more that can be done. You know, what is disappointing, beyond disappointing, tremendously sad, is that the largest manufacturer of steel pan in the world is in Ohio. There is, in Trinidad and Tobago, when we talk about culture and we talk about developing our nation, A steel pan, a tenor that sells for 3,000 US is not an export from Trinidad, because we cannot agree to a standardized pan. We have not yet standardized the pan. Furthermore, we have not established a pan factory in Trinidad. There are people manufacturing pan all over Trinidad, but we don't have a national pan factory. You cannot go to a national place pan factory and buy pan sticks. You cannot go there and get a recording of sheet music for all of the panorama tunes that are played each year. But do you know that you can buy sheet music for your pan from panyardinc.com in Ohio? You can learn about the history of the tambu bamboo and all that right there from Panyard Inc., an American company. So you see, when we talk about culture, when we talk about developing the culture of Trinidad and Tobago, we must look at what we have done. We cannot yet claim, we're claiming the pan, we're saying that it originated here, but we have done very, very little to make the world know that if they need an authentic steel pan, it must come from Trinidad and Tobago. The possibilities in terms of industrial development, in terms of sharing your talent with the rest of the world, in terms of making this a very important export product, the possibilities are endless. But they have not been utilized by governments in the past. So when the Democratic Party comes to you, we're saying to you that we have a plan for pan. We have a plan for culture. We will not look at the initiatives that were made in terms of UTT and NAPA and SAPA. We will not look at those initiatives and throw them away because it did not come from us. We will enhance those initiatives. We will do whatever it takes to ensure that our young people who wish to do drama, who wish to sing, who wish to play an instrument, all of those people can get the best quality service, education, right here locally. That was a fantastic initiative. And we will continue along that path. You see, it is so easy. It is so very easy to condemn. It's so very easy to want to take over. But it is also very easy to lose track of where you are and where you ought to be as a nation. The development of our young people, the development of our culture is not for one sector or group of our country. It's for every single citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. In the private sector, they have done fantastic. So that you have Jupati and Marshall Montano singing together. All this division and racism, and whether it's the pan versus the tassa and all that is generated by the politicians, you know. The musicians have all this common love for the art, and they have come together to do what is necessary to promote the art and the culture of Trinidad and Tobago. So don't blame the artists. The problem that we face, no matter how you look at it, the problem that we face in this nation, a lot of it, a whole lot of it, has to do with the type of governance that we have, the lack of vision, and the greed. The greed. Everyone that gets in there look for an opportunity to do what's best for themselves, for their friends, for their party, for their sect. And very few are motivated to do what's best for Trinidad and Tobago. So the choice is yours. As you approach this 2015 election, that you will have to decide whether you want to continue along that path. You'll have to decide whether you want to see our dances preserved. There are a lot of people who have no idea what a limbo dance is. They have no idea what it is to look at a bongo. They don't know what it is. There's so many things that we have grown up with as children that have gone on the wayside. You know, when you look at the Shiv Shanti dancers, and you look at the impression that they have made nationally and internationally, we should be able to say this is a product of Trinidad and Tobago. Beautiful Indian dance. So we have the best dancers in Trinidad and Tobago. We have excellent musicians. We have musicians that have accompanied some of the best international artists. You know, when you look at Nicki Minaj, she is from Trinidad. So you've looked at a lot of people that have come through Trinidad and Tobago that we have made our mark. And the question for many of us is, why? Why haven't we done what we needed to do to ensure that we make our mark internationally? You know, when people listen to steel band music and calypso, a lot of them think that it originates from Jamaica and Barbados and not Trinidad. We have not done a lot to promote Trinidad and Tobago. So whether we're talking about our sportsmen that have made it internationally, we talk about our artists, whatever we're talking about in terms of our internationally recognized individuals, the government of Trinidad and Tobago have not done their part. What do? Let's look at what we've done for culture. Over the last 30 or 40 years, we put up a North Star in every carnival. We have the same design for the North Star with very little change. Even though we have done some modifications to the grandstand, if you look at it today, it's not very much different from what it was 30 or 40 years ago. The Savannah stage for Carnival is almost the same as it was 30, 40 years ago. The lighting, same, ditto. We've done very little to ensure that when you have panorama, for example, that the bands you can have a change of bands within a few minutes rather than 10 to 15 minutes between bands. And that's the same thing that has been happening for over 20 years. Over 20 years. So when we talk about what we have done for our culture, we have not done very much. Calypso, mass, you know that to date, even now, when people go to watch mass, they have very few facilities that can allow them to sit and watch mass. And worse yet, there are very few facilities that can allow them to go to the bathroom. So after Carnival, tongue smells. People use walls and they urinate on people's walls and on the drains and behind cars. And the same thing has been happening for years. So when we talk about development, and you have all these political parties getting you all riled up and say, listen, vote for us, we are going down the same road. If you want development in your country, if you want your children to take an interest in the arts and culture, then you must vote differently. You have to vote for the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago. We are offering a structure that would allow people from every race, every religion, every sector of our society to find what they like best and to be able to be the best and competitive internationally. So if you're talking about getting international recognition, certainly you want people internationally to be able to understand what you're singing about. You know, almost every American that I met, and I'm sure the same can be said for Europeans, can tell you the words of Bob Marley songs. Although he has an accent, the diction was clear. The same thing is for Kitchener songs and Sparrow songs. So if you want to make a mark internationally, you must be able to have proper diction. You can't get all that talent and skill without proper training. And therefore, it is incumbent on a government to ensure that through our schools, in our school programs, right up to UTT, there's a place for the arts. There's a place where people can learn about the history of Carnival. There's a place where people can learn about the history of Calypso. And there's a place where people can take their talent and bring it to the level that it can be shared with internationally. So, if we need to build a nation, we need to build a nation that is competitive. We need to build a nation that is well balanced. We need to have an attraction that's going to move our children and our students away from crime and gang activity towards something that's interesting, that is beautiful, something that can occupy their time, and at the same time earn income for communities. Then we need to invest in the culture of Trinidad and Tobago. And the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago has a plan to do that. It is the Democratic Party's plan, ladies and gentlemen, to be the political organization that established a pan factory for Trinidad and Tobago. We will have the very first pan factory in Trinidad and Tobago, so that when you get a pan wherever you go in the world, it would say very clearly, made in Trinidad and Tobago. It will be embossed on the tin itself, so that you would not be, so you can have an authentic Trinidad and Tobago steel pan. Under the DPTT administration, for the first time in Trinidad and Tobago, the pan will be standardized so that wherever you go in the world, the notes will be in the same place. Could you imagine if you were playing a piano and C was different from where it is on this piano and another piano and another piano? Could you imagine if guitars were made in a way that when you play a C chord on this guitar, it had to be different on another brand of guitar? In Trinidad and Tobago, that's what happens when you use the steel pan. We need to standardize the steel pan so that when you pick up a steel pan anywhere in the world, C is in the same place, D is in the same place. And that will happen under the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago. We have to ensure that when Carnival comes around, that the stage that you come across is a state-of-the-art stage with proper lighting. That will happen under the DPTT's administration. You are going to be able to sit anywhere in the North Stand or the Grandstand and fully hear the orchestras play, so that the acoustics will be perfect. The stage will be in a way that with mechanical operations, so that the time between one band and the next would be not 15 minutes or 20 minutes, but less than 5 minutes. All of those things you are going to have under a DPTT government. So the question for you is, do you want to continue along the same path that you have been, or do you want to embrace something new? In order to get something you never had, which is a wonderful cultural program for Trinidad and Tobago, you have to do something you never did. And that is to vote for the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago. So until the next time the DPTT speaks, this is Steve Alvarez saying, vote DPTT and may God bless our nation. Thank you.
In the evening of my life I shall look to the sunset.